Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Talking Sense right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and of course, it is Alasdair Milroy's show from Breaking the Mould Accounting. How are you, Alasdair?
I'm good, Ria.
Energy costs are looking to rise. And we're not just talking about England. Of course, we're also talking about Europe. Energy costs are definitely going up quick. It's to be expected. And how is that going to impact small businesses? And how can they deal with that as a business?
There's been a lot of talk and how this is going to affect households, and probably less sort of commentary about how this is going to affect small businesses. And I think it really is going to be, tough for businesses. What can businesses do about it? Now's the time to be looking at your pricing, looking at how you can increase sales, looking at things you can do to maybe upsell or add your sales on to your sort of core product. Because of course, for a lot of people in the retail sector, I think customers will be saying they can't afford more as well. So it's also preparing how you deal with that, how do you communicate that with customers. And I think that's really key for businesses to think about that earlier sooner rather than later.
Well, and we are looking at quite a significant increase straight across the board.
We're talking energy costs, which have probably already doubled and certainly will have by October in the UK. I think there's been a bit more government help in on the continent. I see there's restrictions in terms of in Spain in terms of how much air conditioning you can use and trying to limit the energy sources. And I guess that's what governments are doing. But as a small business, start doing some forecasting around what are those costs going to do to your current profit. Do you need to raise your prices now? What can you do to increase that revenue in the short term? And I think also communicate with customers, because certainly retail customers will probably be asking or seeing if they can get discounts, or there'll be pressure on not to raise prices. So thinking about how you can do that. We see this all the time. People will ask for discounts, but if you actually go out and look at the cars they're driving and look at the people spending money in restaurants, people are still doing the things they want to do. And I think as a business, you need to consider that and plan for how you're going to keep your revenue from being impacted and keep your margins high. I think we're going to see further increases probably in spring next year. If you look and you're forecasting forward and you're looking at putting your energy costs in, and don't wait till it's too late before you sort of look at your pricing and go, what are we going to do and how are we going to tackle this increase in costs?
When you say that, maybe increase your prices to a certain degree, but also the people that you're increasing your prices to are also facing the same issues. On top of that, we've had to, we've seen this huge rise in inflation too. So it's tough.
Yeah, but every business have to make money. And I know there's politicians saying, don't, if you raise your prices, you'll increase inflation, so try not to, or we're going to take a pay cut and things. But the reality is you've got to live, and a business has to make money. The first thing you need to do is sit down and forecast out what a 50% or what a 100% increase in your costs or in those costs is going to be, and how that's likely to impact your revenue, particularly for seasonal businesses. You might be seeing they're going to a quieter time of the year in winter, particularly in the maritime. So you're going to have that almost double hit of your lower revenue months, but actually increased costs. And understanding how that's going to impact you, and then looking at a plan to get through and have those cash buffers in place is important.
Well, that's something that you can do, actually, right? I mean, if a company is saying, we've got this on our books, we're looking at this increase, we can send this off to, say, for example, you, and he can advise us on how much we need to increase straight across the board in order to combat not only inflation, but as well the rising energy crisis, and the expert can take care of that. They don't have to sort of guess at it.
Yeah, we've got some great tools that we can use to, particularly with the accounting software available. There's some very good cash flow forecasting tools available that you can take your actual figures now, but then put in different scenarios and see what it looks like. So that's something I think certainly recommend any business should be thinking about with the sort of change from being in a very low inflation environment for a long period of time to now being in a position where inflation and interest rates are going up rapidly. Just looking how, because we're talking about energy costs, but also if people have got borrowing as well, interest costs are of course likely to go up, and modeling that and understanding how that's going to affect your business. And are you on a fixed rate, but is that going to expire and you're going to see a big jump? It's really that planning and looking forward in your business and forecasting, and then giving yourself the buffer or the room now to be able to absorb what could come if there's another shock that we don't know about. There's always going to be something that comes up. So I think it's important as business owners to make sure we've got that buffer and got that margin in place that can absorb these things, these surprises when they come.
Every time I talk to you, I always feel so much more competent.
These costs, it is an important look forward of, and I think that's where accountants can really add a lot to business owners, of bringing that discipline, bringing that discipline around that sort of reporting process, looking at these things, and then also bringing some accountability for it as well. Yeah.
You do remind me of things that I should be doing that I don't think about. And I think a lot of small business owners are the same. You think about what's going on right now. I mean, aside from marketing in the future, et cetera. But I think sometimes you forget that anything can change in an instant, and you need to be prepared for that financially. Yeah,
on the flip side of what we're saying, it is being prepared. It is making sure you understand your business and have your margins in place. And on the positive side is for all the negative, we read the news, or perhaps we're better off switching the news off and not reading it, because a lot of the things that are being talked about are out of our control. But if we go back to what is in control, and if you look at your customers, we've seen, there's record order books for new yachts. There's, people aren't not spending their money, and people are still going out and eating and buying expensive cars and, having a 60-inch TV or what, so it's actually being comfortable around holding your prices and being confident about your prices because people are spending the money. It's like, well, but giving the service and the care and the reflects that, and I think that's important as business owners to realize and have confidence that actually we're not just selling on price, we're selling on a service, and particularly in this in the maritime super yacht industry, that service is at a very high level, and I think you can justify holding your margins or even increasing them with these in the current environment.
Thank you again, Alasdair. I am looking forward to next week. You've been watching another edition of Talking Sense right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I have been your host. We'll see you again next week.